everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which if you chant my name 3 times in a mirror and then turn out the lights, somewhere a Dr. Pepper will be summoned. I promise. Somewhere. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Yes, actually Thursday, because my brain yesterday thought it was Tuesday, because since I had Monday off, I thought my second day of my work week was Tuesday. But no, it was Wednesday, which means today is Thursday. Ah, hope you're all doing well this wonderful, wonderful Thursday. But before we get into the subject of tonight's show, who's joining me for this adventure into movie allegories, I guess? Maybe, kind of, sort of. I guess we'll find out. Enigma 500, hello. Noah Asensio, hello. The Magister, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Funtime Bats, hello. Hammond Beans, hello. Mike R, hello. Derek LaRue, hello. Let's see. Attack Alpaca, hello. Shell D, hello. And who else is here? Zeke Weiss, hello. And scrolling down. Roger Reynolds, hello. Absolutely Degenerate, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Flair Fritz, hello. And Derek LaRue, let me get this in here real quick before it disappears. Thank you so much again for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. That's very, very kind of you. You've been very supportive lately, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Chicago Mike, hello. And then chat jumped because of course it did. Seftus Wolf, hello. Brittany Holland, hello. Christoph Shitsu, hello. Big Dave 1066, hello. Green Badger Outdoors, hello. Keldrig, hello. Zero the Hero 909, hello. And if I missed you, if you're in the lurking territory or if you're in the future, hello. Jonathan Peterson, hello. I saw you there. Okay. Again, if I missed anybody, I apologize, but let's get into the wonderful world of TEDx. So what is tonight's subject? Well, it asks the question, what happens to the final girl after the movie ends? Now, I'm assuming that our speaker is going to explain to you what the final girl means in movie terms, so I won't waste that time. But after the movie ends, I always thought it'd be entertaining to do a horror movie, well, maybe more like a dark comedy, that is just what happens after the horror movie has ended, in the sense of, you know, the girl or the guy and the girl have escaped the haunted house that's now exploded or burnt down or something, and the ghost has been banished or whatever. And the entire movie is just the characters that survived the situation stuck in a police interrogation room, having to explain to the police why all their friends are dead, and they're the only ones covered in blood that made it out alive. I just think that'd be kind of a funny scenario. No flashbacks, no recreations. It's all theater of the mind. I always thought that'd be kind of funny. Maybe as a short. Either way. I'm sure it's been done somewhere. But if it hasn't, it should be. But anyway, yes, what happens to the final girl after the movie ends? Well, this is one of the rare instances where I did read a little bit of the description of the presentation because I needed some kind of context as to what I was in for. And I stopped when I got far enough to tell me that apparently we're going to learn about real life psychological trauma for women specifically. This could be a complete downer of an episode. I don't know. Fortunately, it only runs about 10 minutes. So if it is terrible in that sense, well, I won't have to feel awkward for very long. But we'll figure that out as we go. A couple other notes. First and foremost, the bingo card tonight is bingo card B. B as in be following me on Twitter. That way you can see the poll for the bingo card when it comes up each week, when I remember to put it up at the right time each week. That's scribe @_light. There you see it, @scribe_light on the screen. Secondly, if you'll direct your attention to the top of the chat box, there is a GoFundMe there for Little Rosebud. Twisted Skipster's puppy dog got hit by a car and had a fractured hip, and they need some vet bills paid, and they're not asking for much, $800. Last I checked, they were about $565 on the way. So if you happen to have a couple of extra bucks to spare, I know it's, just after the holidays and everything, but on the chance that you do, please think about donating there. Or at the very least, if you can, please share that GoFundMe out so that we can get help for little Rosebud. But with all that as preamble and a couple more hellos here, Mr. Tickletrunk, hello. Simon Willikins, hello. Tony Giff, hello. And did I miss anybody else? I probably did. Let's see. John Gamesman, hello. And I think that's everybody. Again, hopefully I'll get more people as time goes on. But anyway, get your bingo cards ready. Bingo card B, links in the description. This clocks in at just over 10 minutes. What happens to the final girl after the movie ends? Do I have sound?
On Halloween night, 1978, in Haddonfield, Illinois, Laurie Strode fought for her life with nothing more than a knitting needle, a wire hanger, and a kitchen knife.
No wire hangers! No wire hangers! You guys hear that all right? Audio's good, says Zero the Hero. Sound is good, says Jaeger Pony. And sounds good, says Absolutely Degenerate. All right, so yes, Laurie Strode, the fictional character Laurie Strode, attacked Michael Myers. Not that Michael Myers, but the Michael Myers with a knitting needle and a coat hanger. Oh, thank you, Keeverdam. Hi, Scribe. Hi, Keeverdam. Did I not say hello? If I didn't say hello, if I missed you, Keeverdam, I apologize. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Yes, Keeverdam, our resident den mother of the chat and of the mods. So say hi to Keeverdam. Thank her for all her effort and attention that she has put into promoting not only my channel, but other channels as well. So thank you so much. And the Luke Skywalker, too. Hello. All right, back to the show.
Her friends were dead, and she faced their murder alone.
Mm-hmm.
You may recognize Laurie as the main character from John Carpenter's Halloween.
I don't. Michael Myers was the main character from John Carpenter's Halloween. So yeah, I don't. I mean, she was she was the protagonist. I'll give you that. She was the protagonist, but the main character was Michael Myers. The story of Halloween would not exist if it were not for Michael Myers. So, yeah.
A movie that helped set conventions for the slasher genre.
Didn't Texas Chainsaw Massacre come out before Halloween, or do I have my timelines wrong? Was Saw before? Well, sorry. Chainsaw. Because Saw is a different thing. Was Chainsaw before or after Halloween? I thought it was before by a couple of years.
An important part of the slasher formula is a group of people, usually young and attractive, who are hunted down and killed one by a seemingly unstoppable monster.
Yes.
These monsters are compelling. They frighten us. They excite us.
Yeah.
Often their methods of murder are creative at the same time that they're shocking.
Yes. Well, but what's the but? I'm waiting for the but.
But what I love most about slashers are not the monsters.
Oh, okay.
What I love most about slashers is watching badass women take those monsters down.
I think you might be missing the point, but okay. I mean, to each their own. Entertainment is where you find it. Did I stress you out, Keeverdam? I did miss you. I missed saying hello to you. Oh my God, I feel so bad. How could I do that? My brain must have just jumped over. I apologize. And now I've made up for it by completely singling you out amongst the entire audience. I'm such a great guy. Thank you, Keeverdam.
These women are known as the final girls, and they are strong and resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Laurie Strode in Halloween. Ellen Ripley in Alien.
Well, you're not going to bring up Dr. Loomis? They're the final girl because a whole bunch of other people fought and died ahead of time, right? Of both genders, usually.
Nancy Thompson in A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Sidney Prescott in Scream.
Oh, yeah.
These final girls are iconic and influential.
And fictional? Where is she in Scrubs, or is that just me?
But who is the final girl?
Well, I mean, classically speaking, the final girl is supposed to represent something that is more pure than usually the male villain, right? You have the male villain. Say it's a David and Goliath kind of situation, where you have a male villain that just by both appearance and size, usually, and or capabilities, is demonstrably stronger than a normal person. But then you take the David figure of the final girl, who represents purity and but also someone who's vulnerable, that you as the audience can see that they are in danger, that you have more of a concern for, because reflexively and instinctually we tend to concern ourselves first and foremost with females, because they are, well, usually not as strong as men, physically speaking, and also they are the child bearers and sort of the sign of the future of our species, one way or the other. And so when you see that representative figure going up against the evil man who is going to do something to them, there's tension there. There's suspense, even though, you have an idea that really the good guy's going to win. Still, it creates a realistic level of concern for the people involved. There's my sort of crib note analysis of that before we get into what our speaker has to say. Thank you, Ms. Jiggletrunk. Guardian headline, quote, 12 people killed by psychopaths. Sole survivor most affected. Yeah. I mean, let's see where she goes. Shadowclaw, hello. Ebony Williams, hello. A couple others here before I missed out. Found, hello. Well, at least you're not lost. Cynic, hello. And I saw somebody else there. So Useless Cook, hello. Yvonne Solomon, hello. It's a llama, hello. All right, so yes, these women now, what now?
The final girl as a concept was originally defined and identified by scholar Carol Clover in her 1992 book, Men, Women, and Chainsaws.
Was that really the first? Did she coin the phrase? Because the concept of the last one standing being a girl, obviously by 1992, wasn't a new thing. But did she coin the phrase? Okay, credit where credit's due if that's the case.
Clover explains that the final girl is chased, cornered, and wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Audiences watch as she screams, staggers, falls, rises, and screams again.
Yes.
She alone looks death in the face and not only fights back, but does so with ferocity.
Incorrect. In nearly every one of these movies that you've cited so far, all the characters, unless completely ambushed, which does happen, but all the characters that confront the bad guy in some way, shape, or form end up fighting him. Plenty of people have been slaughtered in these movies who fought back, but didn't fight back in the right way or at the right time or with the right method. So, yeah, no. Are you going to get to the part where, we fear for the character because they are vulnerable?
In the end, the final girl is the one who did not die.
Yeah. How insightful.
But what happens to the final girl after the movie ends?
Nothing. Nothing happens. Because they're fictional. At least until the sequel. And then you have some idea of what might happen after that. But otherwise, nothing. These are stories. They are fiction. What happened to Michael Myers after the movie ends? Well, we have several sequels to find that out.
In many sequels and series, the final girl returns to the screen to face the monster yet again.
Yes.
Sometimes she returns again and again and again.
Laurie Strode.
But so do audiences.
It's a matter of diminishing returns most of the time. Depends on the franchise.
The Halloween franchise has made over $750 million in box offices worldwide, with a total of 12 films.
Yeah, and there's about 11 of those that aren't worth watching at all. It really is,
And Laurie Strode will be back on screen in October of 2022.
Oh, okay. This is filmed before then.
The Scream franchise has made over $700 million with a total of 5 films, most recently appearing in January of 2022.
Yes.
Audiences return and celebrate the final girl, cheering for her as she meets the monster head on.
Now, wait a second. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Audiences can't identify with a female protagonist. Jennifer Lawrence just told us a couple of weeks ago that audiences can't identify with a female protagonist. What? You're nuts. There's no way that those films and their reoccurring femme fatales, or sorry, female protagonists, kept making money over and over again and maintained an audience. It just, Jennifer Lawrence told us that that's not true. You know, there were no female protagonists before Hunger Games. What are you talking about?
But that's where the celebration stops. Once the movie is over, once the violence is over, the final girl is left behind.
What?
Mainstream media fails to represent her in a life after violence.
Why would anybody want to... Wait, what? Okay, I'm going to go to the bingo card real quick, even though I don't think there might not be anything to circle yet, but we'll see. And I'm inclined to click the WTF button right there. I actually, you know, I think I'm completely justified.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, I hope I don't end up being a broken record here, but I can't seem to stop myself. These are fictional characters. Who wants to watch a movie of, oh, this is the trauma I went through after the movie was over? Now, there have been plot lines in some sequels where you see that, obviously, and most recently with the Halloween franchise, where it, you know, ignored a whole bunch of the sequels and just sort of jumped to Laurie Strode being a completely paranoid survivalist nutbag. You can kind of see that in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where Nancy Thompson returns and tries to counsel a bunch of troubled teenagers while also telling them about Freddy Krueger and so on and so forth. So, you know, sometimes that becomes part of an ongoing plot line with returning characters. But I'm curious to find out what she has to say. Let's go to the bingo card real quick, though. So I've circled it for the WTF. Let's see. Anecdote that probably never happened. She hasn't really given us any anecdotes yet. She's talked about movies. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Well, she hasn't talked about herself. Systemic or institutional. I could make the argument right now if she talks about, like, society and so on, but I'll leave it for a minute. Weightless example. Well, we'll see when she gets to her argument. Word salad, not yet. Leaves out vital context. Yeah, all the other people that fought and died at the hands of the monster beforehand. She's the one that fought back. Well, a lot of people end up fighting back in these movies. It's not just her. She just happens to be the one that finds the solution to the problem or the method by which to kill the guy eventually. So circling that one. Collectivize his own demographic. Not yet. She hasn't talked about herself. Let's wait. White supremacy, no. A list. She's listed off several different female protagonists in horror movies, so I'm going to accept that. Privilege, not yet. Sales pitch for product or service, no. Plays victim, we'll see. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Well, final girl is not a new buzzword or buzz phrase, so no. Wage gap. Yeah, she gets to like actresses' salaries or something. Patriarchy, no, not particularly. Feminism, likewise, not quite yet. We'll see what she has to say. Mind reading or assumes motives. She might be getting close. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, not yet. Marginalized or marginalization, no. Argumentative non sequitur. She might have just given us one, but we'll wait and see. Childhood or family anecdote, no. Contradicts own point or argument, not sure what her argument is yet. Benevolent condescension, we'll see. And lastly, microaggressions or unconscious bias. I think we might get there as well. So far on the board, we have a WTF circle, we have leaves out vital context, a list, and I've circled free space. So that's what we have so far. Let's continue.
And instead, she's defined only through the trauma of her experiences.
It depends on how well the character is written, but okay.
These series trap the final girl in a cycle of violence on screen.
It's made up. It's fiction. She's a fictional character. and audiences often are cheering for her. So what?
Again and again, audiences watch as she is chased, cornered, and wounded.
Yeah.
And the financial success of these series tell us that ultimately it is violence against the final girl that sells.
Is that what it is? Okay. Mind reading assumes motives. Circling that one. It couldn't be. You think people came to see the Nightmare on Elm Street series to see the final girl hurt, or because they liked Freddy Krueger? You think what's on the posters of most of the Halloween films? Say for Season of the Witch, which is obviously the best Halloween film. No, people come to the movie for the villain. They come to the movie for the villain and for the creative kills and for the shock and the gore. And they all know the recipe when they come in. You know, the bad guy's going to get defeated somehow, but not in a way that prevents him from necessarily being resurrected for a sequel. They're there for the spectacle, and they're primarily there for the bad guy. They could change out the final girl every film, and in the Friday the 13th films, they pretty much did. So I don't know that you know what you're talking about.
The final girl is badass as the one who did not die.
Well, not necessarily throughout the entire film. You usually have to work up to it. You usually have the unassuming girl, or the one that seems so gentle and meek and everything. Nancy Thompson, like where she's just this teenager going to school, and by the end she ends up being like this survivalist, badass combat amateur, which is enough to, you know, scare the hell out of Freddy. Well, the thing is that Nancy figured out that she could pull Freddy out of the dream world temporarily after she brought his hat back. That was her solution. She figured something out, and she was able to leverage that into an advantage. Usually the final girl isn't necessarily the most badass in the world, but might be one of the more clever characters in the group, and finds a solution to the problem. It really depends on the movie, really depends on the character. But I'm sorry, I'm going off on my love for horror movies.
But audiences lose interest when she becomes the one who survived.
Because the story's over. If she becomes the one who survived, that means the evil has been defeated for now, and then the story is over. Should there be like a sequel with nothing but the final girl in therapy? What are you asking for?
This excitement that surrounds the final girl in her experiences of violence and disinterest in her life after violence goes beyond fiction.
What? Okay, how?
The final girl reflects attitudes and beliefs about real violence against women, the trauma that follows, and the lives of real survivors.
No.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this?
Right?
You ever hear the phrase reading between the lines of a cookbook? I think we have an example right here.
Like the final girl, real women experience violence in ways that are visible and repetitive.
What?
And globally, women experience violence at alarming rates.
Okay, I can understand using horror films and pop culture as an interesting and perhaps provocative Trojan horse to deliver your message. And your message is not necessarily an incorrect one, obviously. Yes, there is violence against women across the world. Who are the ones that often don't survive against the villain in these movies? You know, there are a lot of guys that end up dying, oftentimes and dying trying to defend other people. But okay, you want to take all the victims from a particular horror movie, some of which are men, and just ignore them, if we're taking fictional characters as somehow reflective of reality for a moment. But no, it's the final girl, the one who survives. Her gender is the only one that matters when it comes to violence against other people. Okay, it's interesting way of going about it. Thank you, Keldrig. So the final girl is subject to the same thing all movie heroes are subject to. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, the protagonist going up against the force of nature, or the monster, or the evil corporation, or the whatever. Yeah, the hero's journey. It just happens to be a female against a big monster guy. And this is reflective of real world violence. Well, after a fashion, I guess it could be. But it also reflects the indifference of the audience to real violence. Is this a too many horror movies make you desensitized and turn you into like violent jerkwads? Is that it?
1 in 3 women have experienced physical or sexual violence in their lifetime, most often at the hands of an intimate partner.
A third of all women. The World Health Organization 2018. I'll tell you what, I don't know if that estimate is true or not, but the fact that you're citing the World Health Organization after the last couple of years, I don't really put a whole lot of stock in the WHO as a singular source. Just saying. But okay. Have experience in the world, in the whole world. Okay, including in those countries where women are seen as second-class citizens at best. Okay, I suppose, given the entire population of the world, I could believe that either way.
80% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment and or sexual assault during their lifetime.
And this is cited from something called Stop Street Harassment. Okay, well, I really need to know what is the definition of sexual harassment and or assault. Because if sexual harassment is defined as a guy sitting next to me with his legs spread open, and I've seen that said to be sexual harassment before, I think those numbers might be puffed up just a little bit, but who knows?
Evidence also indicates that these statistics have only intensified with the COVID-19 pandemic.
What? Whoa. Wait, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased those numbers. Yeah, you know, when I'm locked down in my home and my job has disappeared, I've really got nothing else to do. Actually, is that because everybody's like locked at home and sick of each other because they can't go anywhere? Is that what it is? Because I have heard that to be the case, that instances of either domestic violence or domestic disputes have increased or increased during the pandemic because of the lockdowns and people getting cabin fever and just being nasty to each other in their own home. So if that's what you mean, then is that what you mean? Are you going to explain that or just drop that without any context?
And while women experience violence at these amazing rates,
what do men experience as violence? Why don't you compare and contrast what men experience as far as reported violence, domestic or otherwise? I mean, why don't you show a graph of here's the reported domestic violence against men versus women? It does happen at the same rate as women. Well, it's hard to say because a lot of men don't necessarily report what's happening to them as domestic violence. That's also a problem. But okay, anyway, sorry. What were you saying again about Laurie Strode? I mean, the not real Laurie Strode, but the real Laurie Strode?
Only 40% of women who experience violence seek help.
Oh, what's the percentage of men? What's the percentage of men? You know, those men who get slaughtered by the monster in the horror movies when usually they're trying to defend the women. You know, just giving up their obviously, you know, irrelevant lives in order to defend somebody else. So the final girl can be the final girl. But okay.
Turning most often to family or friends rather than to law enforcement or health agencies.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons that so few women seek help when they experience violence is because their stories are too often degraded, discredited, or altogether silenced when they do speak up.
In this day and age, did you pay attention during Time's Up or Me Too that any claim by anybody was taken seriously? Now, if you're talking globally, I mean, this is the problem that I have with this. She talks about the World Health Organization. Where are these statistics coming from? What do they cover? What populations, what jurisdictions, what countries? If you're talking worldwide, then yeah, I could possibly believe it. Because there are a lot of countries in this world, a lot of societies, a lot of cultures that don't value women as equal citizens, let alone as equal human beings. But since I don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to be circling I already circled leaves out vital context. I already circled leaves out vital context. I get ahead of myself sometimes. Okay, we'll wait. But you know what? I will circle systemic institutional because her percentages and 1 and 3 and 40% of this and that. Okay.
This reality is reflected in The Final Girl as well, even within her own franchise.
Okay.
The 2018 Halloween reboot by David Gordon Green, which
Yes.
takes place 40 years after the events of 1978.
And ignores all the sequels in between, yeah.
Shows what happens to Laurie and her long-term effects of violence.
I thought you said that there wasn't any examples of showing the Final Girl's long-term effects with violence. I mean, I brought it up earlier. You're not going to bring up Nightmare on Elm Street 3? You're not going to bring up, I don't know, any of the Scream sequels where the characters that survived the previous films are all dealing with the past atrocities? I mean, these are your examples. So, okay.
However, in it, characters question her experience on that night and talk about whether she exaggerated events or made them up altogether.
You know, that happened in Halloween 2. It happened in Halloween H2O. I think it happened in the one after that or before that. Laurie Strode having to experience explaining what happened to other people who don't believe her didn't just happen in 2018. Are you even aware of the franchises that you are citing here? Okay, when you have a reoccurring protagonist in these films, oftentimes they are there to ground the story in the previous events by retelling them, by facing the monster again, by getting further revenge against the monster in some way. Oh, this is frustrating. Anyway, thank you, Ms. Jiggletrunk. It's 2021 self-reported partner violence, male 36%, female 44%. Yeah. Yeah, men. I don't know if it's, you'd probably mark it up in some of these TEDx's as, a sign of toxic masculinity, where men don't fess up to being the victims of abuse in some way, shape, or form. And to that extent, I wouldn't call it toxic masculinity. I think there is some sense of pride, sense of embarrassment. I wish men in such situations would get past that. It's no different for females, obviously. They get embarrassed. They don't want to tell anybody. They don't want to get in trouble or make things complicated or risk further retaliation from the person who's abusing them. I mean, the motivations are human. They're not split up specifically by gender. But of course, our speaker doesn't really care about anybody other than one particular demographic because the other demographic is ignorable. Doesn't matter. They're just cannon fodder. They're cannon fodder for the monster, and they don't even deserve any kind of attention from her, I guess, or the rest of us, I suppose.
In one scene, Laurie talks to her granddaughter, Allison, who says that Laurie has harmed her family with her inability to let go of the events of that night.
Mm-hmm.
In a pivotal moment, Allison tells Laurie that she needs to say goodbye to Michael and get over it.
Oh, so a woman telling another woman to get over it. Uh-oh. Well, what message to real life are you taking from that exchange?
This conversation reflects the ways that the story of survivors are so often discussed and perceived by others.
Really? Says who? I keep being told that over and over and over and over again, but except anecdotally, I don't really ever see that. But okay, you say so. It must be true. It was in Halloween, and it's obviously Halloween's a reflection of real life.
But it also encourages audiences to consider what it means to be a survivor, both on screen and in real life.
So, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The New Nightmare, nearly every Scream sequel that had Sidney in it, and nearly every Halloween movie that had any reference to Laurie Strode or appearance thereof. This happens in the movies you are talking about. Often, the same characters end up fighting the monster more than once and retelling their trauma in one way, shape, or form in the sequels. You have no idea what you are talking about, do you?
In her promotional interviews leading up to the release of the film.
Yeah, okay, sorry. This is just so frustrating to hear somebody talking like they know what they're talking about or trying to sound like the wise person on the mountain, and yet they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
Actor Jamie Lee Curtis, who played Laurie throughout the entirety of the Halloween series, talks about the character within the context of the hashtag #MeToo movement.
Oh, am I psychic or something?
Which was gaining in momentum during the film's release.
Uh-huh.
Curtis explains that the film shows the long-term after effects of violence and the ways that coping and living with trauma are insufficiently addressed either on screen and in slasher films or in the real lives of women.
How about men? How about men who go through trauma? How about people that go through trauma? Why is it... Okay. If I, as an audience member, am coming back in part for the bad guy, but certainly cheering on the good guy in some instances, depending, why can't I empathize with Laurie Strode? Right? Why can't I empathize with someone who's gone through trauma regardless of their genitals? Am I disallowed from that? Anyway, thank you, Chicago Mike. Sounds like plays victim and feminism to me. Yeah, no, yeah, the feminism part, I'm circling. I'm a circle feminism. You got that right. Yeah, and especially if you bring up the Me Too movement just as a reference. That might also indicate patriarchy. Oh, wait, maybe she'll say otherwise. Plays victim, again, that square refers to the speaker. Is the speaker making themselves out to be a victim? She hasn't spoken about herself yet. And in this instance, if she started telling a story about how she was literally the victim of an attack or assault or something, I wouldn't circle it because I wouldn't feel comfortable saying she's playing a victim. You see? Now, Jamie Lee Curtis in the role of Laurie Strode, she's playing a victim, but that's not what the square is there for. So we'll wait and see what she has to say.
At the same time that this discussion was happening around the fictional world of the final girl.
It's not possible. I don't want you to think about this for a second. You don't think it's possible that since Me Too happened while the movie was still being made, that it's entirely possible, in fact likely, that there was no thought about injecting Me Too politics into the movie during production, that Jamie Lee Curtis was kind of like retroactively trying to shoehorn that in, possibly for publicity? Yeah, I mean, the character can still reflect, someone who's dealing with trauma, but do you think maybe there might be a timing issue there?
A similar narrative was playing out on the national stage.
Okay.
1 month before the film's release, in September of 2018.
Oh, no! Oh, no! No, you did not. No, you... Okay, so... Justice Kavanaugh is Michael Myers, and Christine Blasey Ford is Laurie Strode. Are you... No, you did... Really? Come on.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
You have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. Now, I know you're not kidding me. I understand. I'm actually watching this. I'm actually hearing this right now. Good gravy. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Sorry, that was homicide, not just violence. Yeah, homicide and violence. Yeah, homicide's got the furthest expression of violence upon another person, practically. But thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. I'm still just shocked. Shocked, I tell you, shocked that someone would use a horror film to describe this nutbag. I guess that's true to a certain extent. Okay. Tell me how Kavanaugh was Michael Myers and Ford was Laurie Strode.
Dr. Christine Blasey Ford testified as part of the Supreme Court confirmation hearings.
Mm-hmm.
In her testimony, Dr. Ford described her experience of violent sexual assault as a high school student.
Are you going to tell about all the people who couldn't corroborate anything of what she was saying, even people that she said were present during the time that this supposedly occurred? Are you going to say anything about her utter lack of credibility? Come on, really, lady?
And all of the ways that that experience has continued to shape and inform her life.
Yeah, that just suddenly she came up with seemingly out of the blue when the guy is about to become a Supreme Court justice. That no one contemporary to the event or present at the event by her own allegation can corroborate anything about what she had to say. Oh, wow. Really? Really? And you're bringing this up in 2022. Now, this wasn't a TEDx talk that was happening like right at the time when it was still fresh in everybody's mind and maybe things hadn't been sussed out at that point. Now you're bringing it up today, effectively. Good golly. Thank you, Kiefer Dam. Was she also Ripley, and was Kavanaugh also the alien? Might as well have been. I mean, the alien has that, big, the big protrusions or whatever coming out of its mouth, the big tongue. I mean, that's kind of what happened to her, supposedly, I guess, maybe. Oh, God. Proboscis. That's the word I was looking for. Proboscis.
During media coverage of the hearings and within the hearings themselves, Dr. Ford's testimony came under intense scrutiny.
As it should have been, and it was, and what was the results of that scrutiny?
Sources said that she lacked credibility about events that had happened decades ago.
She did lack credibility. Did you listen to her testimony? Did you listen to the testimony and affidavits from the people she said were present during the event who said they never saw anything like that? Are you going to give a full picture of this entire thing? Of course not. Thank you, Ms. Tickle Trunk. You skipped my previous one, but I have to run. Oh, I did? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. I'll get to it in a second, so I'll correct it. Murder victims are 77% male and 23% female. Women most affected. Called it. I'm sorry, Mr. Tickle got by me. I don't know how. Thank you again, Mr. Tickle. I read it. 77 to 23% physical violence, whereas he meant homicide. I apologize. That just flipped right by me. Sorry about that, Mr. Tickle. I don't mean to apologize too much, but I don't. What? No, go away. I do mean to apologize, but I feel really bad. That's why. I don't want to miss you guys' super chats. I really do appreciate your generosity on this kind of stuff. Okay, well, anyway, sorry. Christine Blasey Ford had credibility.
It is disheartening that the stories of survivors continue to be degraded and discredited in these ways.
Okay, did you know, maybe you don't care, that some of the people who did not corroborate her story were women? Are their voices supposed to be ignored against Christine Blasey Ford just because she happened to be the one alleging an assault? Do you have anything to say about that? Okay, wow, this went places I didn't imagine it would go. All right, anyway.
But I also find it encouraging that these conversations are happening publicly.
Conversations? Conversations? Is that what that was? That was a conversation? It sounded more like a witch hunt if you watch the actual hearings. They were looking for anything and everything that tried to tear down Kavanaugh. And they found that nut job who couldn't back up anything she had to say with anything, and no one would do so for her as well. Even women.
In fact, conversations about the lives of survivors after violence are happening more and more, both within popular culture communities and in the political sphere.
There is no evidence that she survived anything. Okay, I know it is a very awkward place to be when somebody says, I was sexually assaulted. And it is a very difficult thing oftentimes to prove. But at the end of the day, either there is evidence of it or there is not. In Christine Blasey Ford's case, it was decades after the fact. There was no physical evidence whatsoever. There was no reporting, and nobody that she named as witnesses to the event would corroborate her. So unless they all just had collective amnesia, or you believe in grand conspiracy theories of finding these very obscure people and trying to get them silenced before they had to testify or give testimony, I don't know what to tell you. She made an allegation that had nothing to back it up. The media played her up like she was Joan of Arc, standing up against, the great Satan or something. And Kavanaugh was vilified into the ditch over no evidence because of politics. I don't know if you were watching the same thing that I was and everybody else was. You want to disregard the testimony of women against Blasey Ford. Okay, well, you've been very selective on who you're going to believe based on their gender and which side of the aisle apparently they fall on.
In fact, fans have been imagining alternate futures for the final girl outside of violence for years.
Oh, is it called fan fiction? Oh.
Outside of the mainstream.
Yeah, is it on fanfiction.net?
Through creative works like short stories, games, and art, fans have been imagining futures for survivors and talking about their experiences.
Why would they do that? They don't care about the final girl. They don't care about her trauma. They don't care about her survivor rate. They don't care about her at all after the movie's over with. There's absolutely no concern or thought about the final girl after the movie's over with. You just told us a couple of minutes ago that after the movie's over with, the final girl's trauma and her experiences after the fact don't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody thinks about it. Oh!
Across many of these creative works, final girls can come together across series, franchises, even timelines.
They can also come together in /fic. Can I get a... Is /fic even a known reference or phrase these days? I don't know.
To form a community of support and understanding.
Oh, okay. Great.
The 2015 computer game Final Girls, created by artist Kanani Jones under the handle Spidey J, is a great example.
2015. Okay. Looks, did this person sell this game? Because it looks like a walking copyright violation, trademark infringement.
Final Girls has been described as a game about life after trauma. And in it, 5 final girls come together within a group therapy session.
Oh, man. Boy. Therapy simulator. Golly, that sounds so hardcore. Are there any esport casts about playing Final Girls? Seriously? Oh, okay. Let's see. Who are the final girls here? Well, first off, Carrie isn't a final girl. I don't know if you know this. Carrie isn't a final girl. She's the monster. The final girl was her friend, the one that had the nightmare at the end of Carrie's hand coming out of the grave and everything. I don't know if you know that. I'm not sure who this is up in the corner. This looks like Brittany Murphy. And was she in a horror franchise where she was the final girl that I'm forgetting? I possibly am forgetting. Here's Laurie Strode. Here's Ellen Ripley. Here's Carrie. I don't know who that is. And if that is Brittany Murphy, somebody's going to need to remind me of what movie she was the final girl in. Because I don't know. You guys will have to catch me at the end because I only got a couple minutes left on the video here.
Players earn points by encouraging characters to talk about the mundane parts of their everyday life.
Oh my gosh. It's a very, very basic visual novel. Well, it doesn't look all that more complicated than like a Hyper Studio or HyperCard presentation from the 90s. For those of you that remember HyperCard or Hyper Studio. Ask about Jay's week. Ask about Carrie's week. Ask about Lori's week. Ask about Mary's week. Everyone's done talking about their weeks. Welcome, everyone, says Ellen Ripley. Seriously?
But also the ways that their experiences of violence continue to affect them.
Okay, sales pitch for product or service. Circle in that one because you got to be kidding me. A 2015 point-and-click visual novel that, again, I'm assuming this is some kind of freeware kind of thing, but you might be just stepping on some trademark and copyrights there, but whatever.
In the game, Lori has become a high school English teacher. She enjoys mentoring students and taking her dog out for walks after school. Lori is still a survivor. She talks about how she watches silly cartoons or paints her nails when she's feeling overwhelmed by memories of her past.
No, the author of the game is doing that. Laurie Strode isn't a real person. She's fictional. Jamie Lee Curtis is a real person, but she's playing a fictional character. You know there is a separation between these things, right?
But the game no longer defines Lori only through the violence of that past.
Then why would I bother wanting to sit around watching a bunch of people complain about their terrible, terrible experiences when I've already watched them happen? I don't need to watch Laurie Strode go through a therapy session as to what Michael Myers did to her and her friends. I saw it in the movie. And I can empathize with the character even if I'm not watching her live. You know, that's an artifact of good writing. That's an artifact of good characterization. They stay with you even when you're not actively watching the movie or reading the book. And you can find parallels between yourself and the protagonist. You can empathize with their situation. You can think to yourself, what would I do if I was in that situation? Don't go in the basement. No, pull out the hammer. You know, there's all these things that happen that don't require a debriefing every time, if the story is told well and or the characters are memorable. Why do you need to wallow in other people's trauma? Why do you need me to wallow in other people's trauma? Is this a misery loves company situation? And speaking of misery, who was the monster in that movie?
Lori is a pet parent, a teacher, a mentor, and a friend.
According to the author of this game. Okay. You know, she was a babysitter in the first Halloween movie, a caretaker, a caregiver. You know, we knew that attribute of her to begin with. Never mind.
Creative works like Final Girls give these characters a future outside of the violence that they experience on screen.
Who care? I don't care about Laurie Strode's trauma. There, I said it. I don't care about Laurie Strode's trauma. I don't. Laurie Strode can die in a fire, fall into a wood chipper, vanish into the ether. You know why I can say that? Because she's not real. She doesn't exist. Her trauma is fiction. Okay, so this unlicensed therapy simulator is something I really need to pay attention to. Otherwise, who can really understand the trauma of the final girl?
So what happens to Lori after that horror-filled night in 1978?
Well, she apparently wallows in her trauma her entire life, even through motherhood, you know, sets herself up as a survivalist in order to kill Michael Myers, and then does so twice. First in the Halloween reboot, and then in its sequel that just came out, Halloween Ends, she like kills him again. When it would have been much more interesting if the whole concept of the evil of Michael Myers was passed on to a new character rather than just rehashing Michael Myers as a villain, but making the evil that inhabited Michael Myers become the villain for future movies. But they didn't do that either. It was a complete rug pull. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
The Halloween franchise may have her meet Michael Myers again and again on screen.
Hopefully not.
But fans have given her an opportunity to live a life that is healthy and happy.
She is not real. She's not real. But okay. Tell me this. Since your concern, seemingly, and I'm reaching here a little bit, since your concern seemed to be that horror movies were desensitizing audiences to the trauma that real life victims go through, how does this game address all the abused women in the world, the statistics you gave us, and or all the women who don't report the violence happening to them? Why are you closing out your presentation with this flash game that nobody's heard of before until right now?
There's a lot that we can learn from the final girl and the creative work that she inspires.
Whoa. The creative work that she inspires. Are you talking about the fan fiction? You must be talking about the fan fiction.
Fans give voice to survivors.
Laurie Strode didn't survive anything. Laurie Strode is not real.
Listen to survivors and support their processes of healing and recovery.
The only thing you've shown or cited so far is a game that plays out someone's imagination of how fictional characters would interact with each other. It's fan fiction. All the trauma that those characters are based within is fictional. Monsters and aliens and ghosts and zombies and whatever. And even one of them is themselves the villain. You could Carrie in there. So, oh my God.
Like the final girl, real women deserve our recognition and support. Thank you.
Oh, it's okay. No. Benevolent condescension. Right there at the end. If it wasn't there before, it certainly was there just then. Benevolent condescension. Okay. Good gravy. All right. That was an awkward presentation. I don't know how else to put it. You had bad examples. In fact, weightless examples probably going to be one on the circle here in a second. But just for reference, here's where we're at on the bingo card. Look at that. I mean, she said some whoppers during that one, didn't she? Okay, if you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them for a second. I'm going to go over the card one more time by myself and see if I missed anything, and then we will proceed with what you guys have to, contribute. Anecdote that probably never happened. I'm a little iffy on that statistic she put up by the stop street harassment thing. I'm not sure that those statistics make any sense, and especially since she left out some very vital context. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Nope, nothing in this had her, asking for forgiveness or making herself part of the problem or saying that I used to be one of those audience members or something. Weightless example. Yes, I mean, saying that the movies never address the trauma of the characters, not citing all the examples within those franchises that she cited as showing that very thing. Circling that one. Also, Carrie? Really? You're going to bring up Carrie as the final girl? She wasn't the final girl. She wasn't the final girl. She was the villain. She was the monster. Anyway, word salad. That's a tough one because I understood everything she was saying. At no point did I feel like she was just, belting out buzzwords for no reason or just, all over the place. So I might need if there's an argument to be had, it's going to have to come from you guys. Collectivize his own demographic. Just women in general, all women and so on. Yeah, white supremacy. She never talked about race. Doesn't apply. Privilege. I'm sure some kind of abstract argument could be made, and if you have it, go for it. I can't think of anything. She never said the word, so yeah. Plays victim. She never played the victim. She never talked about herself. She made no self-referential anecdotes or anything else of any substance, so can't say that one applies. Again, you guys have come up with some creative arguments before, so we'll wait on that one. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. No, nothing that she said was new to me. Wage gap. She never talked about money. Patriarchy, I mean, it's implied with the whole Me Too thing and Kavanaugh and all that. Yeah, I'll circle it. I'll circle it because, given some of the subject matter she brought up with Me Too and Kavanaugh and Blasey Ford and everything, I guess it's kind of unavoidable. Diversity, equity, and or inclusion. Nope, she never said the words. So, marginalization. In that women aren't believed and so on, and the percentages that she used, accurate or not, she did bring up at least the concept. Let's see. Argumentative non sequitur. Oh boy, did she bring up something that she didn't ever bring up again in any way, shape, or form? I mean, not sure. There might be an argument. I don't want to jump the gun on that one. Childhood or family anecdote. She never brought up her own childhood or family. Contradicts own point or argument. Yes, she said that nobody cares about the final girl afterwards. Oh, by the way, here's all this fan art and fan fiction and game and stuff that people have been doing. Yeah, nobody ever cosplays as these characters. Yeah, it never happens. And lastly, microaggressions or unconscious bias. Well, unconscious bias. She seemed to be, complaining about active bias against the stories of women or women talking about their victimhood and that kind of thing. So maybe there's something there, but I'll leave it to you guys. So that's the card as I have it right now. We're very close to at least one or two bingos. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, please put them in the chat now and be sure to tag me in your comment. It makes it easier for me to see it. I'll scroll up a bit in case anybody put something out there. Ebony Williams, female victims of violence, at least in the Western world, had plenty of support. More often than not, especially these days. Wasn't always the case, certainly. And I will admit that in some areas, there's still a lot of work to be done. But as compared to the rest of the world, certainly we're in a far better place here than, say, I don't know, the Middle East or China or something. So that complaint. But then again, she never clarified, was she talking statistics that were based in American studies or worldwide studies? She brought up the World Health Organization, so I'm guessing she's talking globally, but I never really got the sense that she defined that. Let's see. Let's see. Weightless example. All her examples were fictional, therefore they weigh nothing. Oh, Advocatus Diaboli. That is true. Except I already circled it. I was like, wait a second, that's a good one. I did already circle that. My short-term memory, what can I tell you? But you are right. Roger Reynolds, the trauma is addressed, it's just off screen. Well, yeah, in our imaginations, if there's not a sequel, right? I mean, and that's what I was talking about. It'd be interesting to see like a short film or something that just showed literally the aftermath of a horror movie where the characters end up having to like deal with the immediate after effects of watching all their friends die to some supernatural force that they then have to go to the cops and try to explain it. Yeah. Okay. Spud Gun. She never said the word privilege, but she implied privilege that men are somehow given their happy ever after in these films. Yeah, and she, and on that same coin, by citing statistics that only brought up the trauma or assaults or violence or non-reporting of women, she seemed to imply as well that men don't suffer from those things either in any proportion, whether larger or smaller than women, as though any proportion is desirable from civilized human beings. So, yeah, okay, I will give you that one. Privilege, at least implied in aggregate. It's not a bingo square, so it's not, all that. If it was a bingo square, I'd probably ask for something a bit meatier. Not Meteor Man like Meteor, but Meteor. Let's see. Zero the Hero. Scribely, would fictional characters count as anecdotal? You mean as far as like childhood or family anecdote, or anecdote that probably never happened? Because childhood or family anecdote, no. So, no. Ebony Williams, Scribelight, on an unrelated topic. Have you seen the new Interview with a Vampire show? I have not. Is that is that an HBO or Showtime thing? I am embarrassingly subscribed to several streaming services, but I don't think I'm subscribed to the one with Interview with the Vampire, unless, let me know which one it's on. But the short answer is no, I haven't seen it. I think the book is great, and I think that the movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks as Lestat, that'd be great. Tom Cruise is actually really good. I think that's really good. I always like that one. Queen of the Damned. I mean, it had its moments, and the soundtrack was kind of cool at the time. But yeah, you know, it's a goofy. Queen of the Damned is a movie you watch with your friends. You know, you don't take too seriously. Whereas at least Interview with the Vampire was a decent drama. Jeanette E. Hellis, hello. I write fan fiction and never contributes to the actual media. I mean, it depends. It depends. You know, 50 Shades of Grey started out as Twilight fanfic. So it's not impossible, but it's also not very likely. Let's see. Anybody else? Oh, AMC. No, I don't have AMC. I've got Disney Plus, just so I can watch stuff and, you know, do videos on it sometimes. I got Disney Plus. I have access to Hulu and Amazon Prime and Netflix. I think those are the four that I have. I either subscribe to or sharing login have access to otherwise. So let's see. Absolutely generic. I don't know if I'd watch the new Interview with the Vampire. They take a lot of ... liberties. I mean, when I heard that they were remaking it in this day and age for the modern audience, I assumed they'd probably do a lot of goofy stuff. But then, you know, there was a lot of things they made concessions for in the film from the novel. So if they wanted to do the novel justice in a series, that'd probably be the best way to do it. I don't know anything about it. I think I saw one still image of the characters, but I barely remember what it was like. So yeah, if I find a way to get around to seeing it, or they start streaming it elsewhere, I'll take a look. Ebony, what do you think? What do you think about it? Anybody else have any squares to be circled? Shadowclaw, I'm still offended you never thought of Sarah Connor. Yeah, Sarah Connor's a good one. Yeah, I'd be the final girl. I mean, as far as final girls go and ones that eventually, like, you want to see her trauma, hey, Terminator 2, she's in an insane asylum. I mean, that was probably the most realistic sequel fate for a survivor of one of those kind of movies. Like, you could totally see her having done that. She traveled the world preparing for the end of the world and then got caught up in an insane asylum. It makes perfect sense. It seems completely logical and rational. So yeah, she should have brought that one up. That showed her trauma. That showed her journey from one movie to the next. Advocaz Diaboli, did you know Dorothy married an abusive husband and had 3 kids who never call her on her birthday or visit her in the old folks' home after Oz? I, too, can make up crazy stuff. Yeah. See, I wouldn't know that you'd be telling a lie there. I don't know what happened in the books. After seeing Return to Oz, which is basically Dorothy being lobotomized, you guys knew that, right? In Return to Oz, the entire thing is, you know how the storm that sends Dorothy off to Oz again happens just as she's about to get electroshock therapy? Yeah, the entirety of Return of Oz is her being lobotomized, because at the end of the movie, she ends up, in the sunny, happy place again, and she's going off. Yeah, that's her losing her mind. Puts a whole new twist on that story, doesn't it? Let's see, Ebony. For me, it's a so bad it's good territory, but you don't have to take my word for it. Do. Thank you, Ebony. Yeah, if I get a chance to look at it, I'll take a look. I haven't been into vampires I got burned out of vampires a long time ago because of Vampire the Masquerade. They so ruined the books, and I played that game for so long. My love for vampires has waned over the years, but man, I still like vampires. I still like vampires. Jeanette, LOL, when they are written where the one hates the other and the other is basically and stupidly obsessed with him, you want something like that to happen. Sorry. If only I got paid to write a story about 2 cookies being gay, I'd be really happy for myself. Cookies. Chicago Mike, you just gave us the plot to Brazil. That. Or maybe an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, or any other story or movie where literally or figuratively the rug gets pulled out from under the protagonist at the last second. It's not a new idea. Any other circles to be squared, guys? Or squares to be circled, circles to be squared? Maybe I'm just chipping away at the marble of the square and the circle's already there. You just have to kind of point it out to me. Let's see. John Gamesman, and then there were none as a murder mystery book. I think the speaker would hate that book. Oh, was the final person not a woman, or was the final person the villain? I don't think I've ever read that book. I read 10 Little Indians a long time ago, which they probably would sort of excoriate to some sort of cultural appropriation thing by now. I don't see any other arguments for squares to be circles. So I think we might have hit a wall on that one. Spudgun, look up Aaron Pizzi to see what happens about men who seek support for being victims of domestic violence or in-person violence. I know that name. So I think that's where we're at, guys. So not any bingos. We came close, but heck if we didn't have plenty of WTF moments, as our speakers seemingly could not distinguish between fiction and reality and use some really, really goofy real-life examples to relate back to fictional massacres. I don't know what else to say about it. And so I guess I'll just start winding things down. I'm going to check out the GoFundMe real quick and see where we are at, just for reference for those of you here and or those of you in the future who might be able to donate. I'm going to try to remember to put a link to the GoFundMe in the description in case for some reason you guys don't get the feed of the chat. The total is still at $565 of 800. So again, if you can't donate, and I understand if you can't, please consider at least sharing the link out on Twitter or Facebook or elsewhere and see if we can get the help for Rosebud that she needs for her hurt little hip. Thank you, Keeverdam. 3 WTFs and no bingos, new record? That might be. I don't know if that's happened before. Yeah, it could be a new record. I don't have an announcement thing for that like I do for a blackout or a whiteout, but how about we just call that an honorary...
Wowie, wow, wow.
There you go. 3 WTFs, no bingos on a short TEDx where fiction and reality don't mesh. But boy, our speaker gave it a shot, I suppose. Anyway, everyone, that's the show. If you'd like to hear more from me, by any chance, this Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern will be the Sunday stream. And unless something else comes up, I'm planning on it being the latest in my border news digests. I didn't do one for last month because of the holidays and a bunch of other stuff going on. But boy, howdy, a lot's happened at the border in the last couple of weeks alone. Certainly the last month, and I've been collecting stories. So that may be the subject for Sunday. We'll see. Not quite sure. But always, you can find me here Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, which you've just watched. Also, a personal note of a kind, sort of, not really, but for a personal friend. Sinatra Says, who many of you may or may not know, a YouTube friend of mine for many years now, he has decided to shut down his main channel because his main channel was unjustly demonetized several years ago. And despite him trying over and over and over and over to have it corrected, YouTube won't budge for reasons that are completely unknown to anybody with any rational brains. Now, he has started up new projects to take a look at. I won't mention them out loud here because even he wouldn't do so out of fear that something might happen as a result of saying so. So please check him out on Twitter to find out what's going on with his channel and channels. His Twitter is Sinatra_says. And that is with capital S's in each instance. So capital S Sinatra _ S says on Twitter. Follow him on there, and he's got his new projects pinned at the top of his feed. So please take a look at that if you have the option to do so. And with that, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me for this bonkers TEDx, but did I expect anything less from TEDx? Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or hopefully to the GoFundMe for Rosebud, thank you guys so much for your generosity. I don't know what else to say, but thank you. I really appreciate it, as I'm sure Twisted Skipster will as well, if you help out with the GoFundMe. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all have a good rest of your Thursday. It's Thursday, I have to remind myself. Hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.